Hi, Drew Franklin here, smiling through the pain with my good friends Jack Pilgrim and Zach Gagan after we just watched Kentucky basketball lose to South Carolina at home in Rupp Arena in what should have been a feel-good game after what happened at Alabama. But no, South Carolina, the 263rd ranked team in the net, the same South Carolina that lost to Furman and lost to Colorado State by 32 points this year,
Jesus.
Came into this beautiful building. Yeah, how about that? Colorado State, 32 points. That team, those Gamecocks, came into this building as a 20-point underdog, and they're the ones leaving with laughs and smiles as they handed Kentucky yet another loss in conference, 71-68, and just an embarrassing performance. We could go player by player, who did what, who didn't do what, who disappeared with back spasms. There's all kinds of things we could just dissect, but let's just start with big picture. Jack, this is South Carolina. Kentucky lost. They had to defend home court all year to help the tournament resume. They couldn't even defend it against the worst team in the conference.
To their credit, they're not the worst team in the SEC now.
Well,
that's a good thing, at least. Kentucky definitely has that. Yeah, I have nothing positive to say. I am very, very concerned about this team's outlook long term. I don't think this is a tournament team. I think that's abundantly clear at this point. They have no quality wins. Their resume is an absolute disaster. They're now 10-6 on the year. Nothing looks optimistic moving forward. Nothing about this team looks cohesive. They don't look like they like each other. Body language is just as bad as it was against Missouri, just as bad as it was at Alabama. All of the big time questions that we had about this team just continue to be unraveling in front of us game by game by game by game at this point. And I think we're just starting to come to the realization that this team stinks. And I mean, Cal can say we need patience. It's a long season. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
But we are now over halfway through the regular season. It's those type of narratives are over. This team is just, it is what it is. They're just not a good basketball team.
Ladies and gentlemen watching at home, A, thank you. And B, it is January 10th, and Kentucky has more quad 4 losses than quad 1 wins on its resume. The University of Kentucky, that is their resume.
Is that good?
What I mean, we used to think, is this a tournament team? It's like, yeah, of course they're a tournament team. Are we going to the NIT?
I think Nate Oates tried to, dismiss that, but if the season ended today, I think Kentucky's absolutely an NIT team. I don't think there's any. Bracketology came out this morning. They were a 9 seed. They just continue to slide. I don't know how you could think that this team right now is a tournament team. It doesn't even seem like it's basketball issues at this point. It's just team chemistry, attitudes. All the players that came out and talked were down. Oscar kept saying over and over and over again how they need people to fight. He said, put in walk-ons. Let's see Walker Horn out there, right? Or whoever, I don't even know, can't even think of off the top of my head. But that's how bad it's getting right now, is no one is fighting. You've got guys just essentially checking out during games, showing very little emotion, heading back to the bench, just saying that the locker room was silent afterwards. There's no positivity at this point. The team was actually better when they were getting their ass beat by Gonzaga and Michigan State because they at least fought a little bit more down the stretch. This was, they waited until the last 51 seconds to try and actually get themselves back in the game. So,
like you said,
I don't really know.
The exact opposite of the LSU game. This same building last week, Kentucky jumped out all over LSU, let them back in, but still won the game. This is the opposite. Kentucky didn't even show up. South Carolina went up huge right out of the gate. And what should have, in Kentucky's brain, been like, hey, this is a great opponent to bounce back with. This team sucks. We're a 20-point favorite. What a great time to get our numbers up. Everybody have fun. We'll love each other again. And maybe we'll see what happens when we go to Knoxville. But no, South Carolina, it was over minutes in the game, which was the first thing Calipari said. We lost in the first half. I feel like Kentucky's lost a lot of first halves this season, and we just keep hearing the same comments from him.
I talked to an NBA scout probably 6 hours ago over the phone and asked, what do you think's wrong with this team? Do you have any answers for this team? And he said, well, I'm really excited to see them go out and kick this team's ass tonight, and I think it's going to be a really good team morale game for them. This one, yeah, the South Carolina that was 276 or whatever the hell they were in the net. That scout was convinced that tonight was going to be like the first stepping stone toward whatever the end of season goals are for it, and that clearly did not happen. So I just don't know where you go from there. I think that this locker room is checked out. I think there's a reason why they were completely silent. I don't think there are words to say. I don't think there's a column to write. There's no like, you know what, I think this is what needs to happen for them to put it together, or this is the end of year goal that we need to be inching toward. Think big picture here. I don't think there's anything left to talk about or say, big picture that could make anybody feel better about this. I think this is just a wait-and-see mode team at this point, and until they can prove to be a competent basketball team on the floor, then I got nothing.
I do want to shout out Rupp Arena. It wasn't full, wasn't a great crowd. Might have even been a little better than we expected. We thought it would be awful.
It did fill out a little bit towards the end there.
But the people in here really brought the energy. It's sad that a Fredrick 3 to cut into South Carolina's lead is what you need to get Rupp Arena to have a pop. But that was one of the loudest pops of the year, as they did fight back to cut it to 3. So shout out to the home team fans for at least standing here and fighting with Kentucky.
No matter what Jeff Goodman says on Twitter.
Yeah. No,
that liar.
But when Kentucky got it to 3, they have the ball, a chance to tie. This man right here says, well, what are they going to do? Before the ball gets to half court, says, well, a Xavier Wheeler turnover, obviously, because we've seen this basketball team. Seconds later, he does the thing where he gets in too deep, leaves his feet, has nowhere to go, throws it, turnover. I hate how much we didn't realize that was coming, and I hate how Cal had timeouts in his pocket that he is now going home with. In a perfect scenario that he could have called a timeout, knowing Wheeler probably would have done something he shouldn't, and maybe, I don't know, draw up a play to get an open look at a three-pointer. Zach, it's almost the same complaints we have after every loss. And here we are again talking about Wheeler dribbling away at the end and Cal completely going home to put another timeout in the timeout pile.
Well, this even would have been the perfect opportunity to try and get C.J. Fredrick a shot, because he actually played probably his best game in 3-ish weeks, something like that.
Quick comeback for him, too, from that injury. Thought it'd be longer.
Yeah, he came back. He played really well out there. Him and Antonio Reeves were kind of getting in a little bit of a groove, but you could see the differences between Kentucky and how they approach their offense versus South Carolina. Every time South Carolina would hit a 3, Kentucky would come back with a mid-range jumper from Antonio Reeves. Sometimes he'd make it, cool. Can't trade 3 for 2, and that's just kind of how the game worked out. 8 fewer threes Kentucky had than South Carolina. That's really your ball game right there. Kentucky beat them on pretty much every category. They were only out-rebounded by a few. They had 9 fewer turnovers.
It's only 6 turnovers in the game.
That's really good. They shot 51%.
Even Cal at the podium was like, I don't think I've ever seen this happen before.
51% from the field. They shot well, but they only shot 3 for 10 from 3. They had 2 at the very end where they missed those. So really they were about 3 for 8 from the whole game from 3. That's symbiotic of how Kentucky just kind of runs their offense right now. South Carolina was a much worse team. Granted, they hit a few shots that probably shouldn't have gone in, some very Devin Downey-esque, bringing back those nightmares. But a lot of the shots were just wide open. It's now back-to-back games where Nate Oates, the head coach for Bama, and Lamont Paris, Drew's guy, they have both immediately said that the first thing that they were looking for to attack Kentucky was with Oscar and ball screens. So Oscar was asked about it, how do you fix it? He said he didn't really have a good answer, I guess. He just said, he's got to be in a better position, but it's getting to a point where, teams are attacking Kentucky's best player, and we saw it. You had to take him out in the Alabama game. Oscar even had 19 and 12 tonight, and it really just didn't matter in the end.
It's crazy that we just keep hearing coaches after the game be like, well, this is what we wanted to do. This is what we practiced. We got to the game, and it worked perfectly. Why is Kentucky not realizing that? And, Oscar has his limitations in the pick and roll. Maybe he just simply can't do it. But there has to be something different you can try instead of just watching this movie over and over again. The recipe, the blueprint is just out on beating Kentucky, and we're watching coaches, with all due respect to Lamont Paris. He's from Findlay, Ohio. I love Findlay, Ohio. But first-year coaches at South Carolina are talking about how they just did exactly what they thought they would do against the John Calipari coach team.
And it's on both ends. It's not just defeating Oscar and just pulverizing him in the pick and roll and taking advantage of his limitations on that end of the floor. They know that he's turned into a black hole offensively. He's not just the cleanup specialist that he was so good at this last season. Now he gets the ball inside and holds onto it for 5, 10, 15 seconds at a time. And he either turns the ball over, forces a bad shot, or passes it back out of the three-point line for a heave prayer at the end of the shot clock, and that's Kentucky's offense right now. And then the three-point shooters on the outside, they're not engaged. They're just, sitting there eating a ham sandwich going, well, Oscar's going to do something, and I won't be needed for another 20 seconds. So they're not locked in, ready, shot ready for opportunities there at the end of the shot clock either. So that's Kentucky's offense right now. So Oscar's getting burned on that end of the floor, and then on the other end as well. So
if I can just add, Kentucky went to their deliberate offense when they were down 7 with 9 minutes left in the game. I'm just not entirely sure that that's how you want to approach these end-of-game situations. It honestly, I guess if I want to say, it kind of worked. They got back in the game, I guess, but slowing the game down that long, taking shots with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, with 9 minutes left when you're down by that much, just doesn't seem like, excuse you over there, does not seem like a very winning formula for this team at all.
Not a whole lot of formulas they can put together at this point to get to winning, but we would be remiss if we left this beautiful rapid reaction on YouTube. Again, shout out for watching, leave a comment, subscribe, all those things YouTubers do. Did I get that right, Steven?
You got it. Smash it.
We should mention the off-the-court scene here where a young man with a "Please Go to Texas" sign was quietly causing a bit of scene since he was seated behind UK's bench with a "Please Go to Texas" sign. And was asked to leave. I thought that caught everyone's eye, but kind of telling of where this fan base is right now, Jack. Maybe not all of them, but
unfortunately,
some of them.
That's where we are. We had the news break this week that Texas has made contact with John Calipari through back channels, and it has been denied by both sides, but that was to be expected because why would they admit to that this earlier midway through the season? Yeah, but they went out of their way to deny it. Unfortunately, it is a conversation that we need to be having, and I'm sure everybody in this comment section is very clearly admitting that they are rooting for it. I don't think I think it's a kind of a consensus at this point that the majority of fans are rooting for that scenario. Unfortunately, it's a really crappy situation because if he does decide to leave, he's taking his entire recruiting class with him and leaving the cupboard absolutely bare at Kentucky next season. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation no matter what. You can go get whoever you want, but there are no top 100 recruits left available in the class of 2023 unless you want to go get Bronny James, and I don't think he's a savior for anybody. So Kentucky could be in a really, really crappy situation no matter how this whole saga unfolds. Really, really tough time to be a Kentucky fan, I might say.
There's people worried about Kentucky getting into a crappy situation if he leaves. Hello, everyone. We're in a crappy situation. We've been in one for a couple of years now. Yeah. This is pretty crappy. South Carolina sucks at basketball. We're sitting here talking about how Kentucky lost at home. It is crappy. Who knows what will happen with those back channels. I think, like Jack said, I think it might be best for everyone if that were to play out that way. I don't know. Got no sources there. I just know on my back channels, a lot of people are disappointed about how this played out, and now they're heading to Tennessee, where, God bless America, we none of us have hope for that.
Did you hear what's happening in Knoxville on Saturday as well? They're retiring Chris Lofton's jersey. So I don't know if we will have an atmosphere like we're going to see at Thompson Bowling. So be prepared. That's all I will say.
I'll be there. Steven will be there to watch a Tennessee team that held South Carolina to 42 points in South Carolina's last game. Well, South Carolina scored 42 in the first half here in Rupp. What could go wrong in Knoxville? But until then, Drew here, smiling through the pain with my friend Jack and my friend Zach. Kentucky basketball, not what it once was. But thanks for watching our rapid reaction. I'm going to be done stuttering. Go Cats.